Welcome to Pound for Pound ATL, arguably the best place to get facts and opinions on your Atlanta Falcons. And absolutely the best place to get your opinions in. The conversation starts now.
What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with the Pound for Pound ATL Live. As always, joined by my main man, Toby D. What's going on, Toby?
Man, ain't nothing much, man. Hey, we normally don't start off like this, but look, we just want to go ahead and say, anybody that's coming in here and you new to this channel, please subscribe and continue to share, like, and comment, all those beautiful things. Y'all have really been helping us, and we are like 97 subscribers away from reaching our 5,000 subscribers goal. So we're definitely excited about that, JR and myself. Man, what's going on with you, man?
Oh, man, dude, you know, we're just trying to make it through in a sense, hoping for some OTA hype videos, which we ain't seen yet. I was really hoping for some like solid hype before we come on the show tonight. I'm even refreshing Twitter just in case they ain't snuck one in on me, and I ain't seen one. Okay, so I guess we just gonna have to wing it, so to speak. But we did get to see some deal. You know, you saw AJ Terrell trotting out there this morning, and you know, you saw Frank Darby bringing that energy, which was, you know, good to see. Now let's see if he can do more than just bring energy. Let's see if he can actually, you know, crack the squad.
Yeah.
But I think since the last time we came together live, the team has made some moves. And I think, all right, we came together live and they'd already re-signed Grady, right?
Mm-hmm. And they added Orkowski.
Right. They added Kwiatkowski, or whatever you say his name.
Yeah.
But since then, they traded for Brian Edwards.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting move, because this is a potentially ascending wide receiver who fits the mold that Arthur Smith is looking for,
right,
or at least like the bigger body guys like he had up in Tennessee. So this wide receiver room, and James Williams already asking, what are y'all thoughts about the wide receiver room as of now? And I'll tell you this, it looks a lot better now than it did when we before the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, I joked plenty of times that we were rolling in the season with Zacchaeus as being wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
You know, which I knew that they wasn't going to stick with that. Like I wasn't, you know, I was being very sarcastic in those comments, but it was like, you know, then you had the reports coming out. We heard around the Senior Bowl time and things like that Terry was going to be aggressive in upgrading this wide receiver room, and we have now seen that come to fruition.
Yeah.
You now have Drake London in the fold, obviously as your presumed wide receiver 1. You have Auden Tate, Geronimo Allison, who we signed off of a tryout, who spent some time with Green Bay, another 6'2", 6'3" receiver, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is. About 303 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, you know, you have Auden Tate, 6'5". You got Brian Edwards, who's 6'3".
6'3", yep, 215 pounds.
Another like contested catch kind of receiver.
Yep.
You know, didn't get used a ton, but started to come on last year with the Raiders, which makes it interesting. I mean, obviously those guys down there, they have a regime change. So, and they just brought in Devontae Adams.
Right.
So, you know, Devontae Adams is going to take up a majority of those targets that might have went to him and Hunter Renfrow, you know.
Yeah, and Darren Waller.
Right, and Darren Waller, of course.
No room. Yeah.
Right. So we took a 5th and netted a 3rd round wide receiver and a 7th.
Yeah, 7th rounder. Yeah.
So I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at the work that Fontenot's been putting in.
Yeah.
All's like in our pre-show chat, you know, you brought up Vincent Taylor.
Yeah, and nobody
talking about Vincent Taylor.
Right. He got signed to free agency, and nobody like this guy could actually surprise and really get back to his 2018 form. And if we can get that guy from 2018, Vincent Taylor, we might have something next to Grady Jarrett.
Right. And that's like part of the deal, you know, when we have like you have what okay. At the end of the season, I think me and you, I know me for sure, felt like this was either that was the last season or we were going to be looking at the last season of Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
You know,
both of us.
Right, because I mean, you had the statement of the admitted not scheme fit, which was kind of surprising to hear a coach come out and actually say that. And then you had like, and a lot of like something I brought up before, his body language a lot of times last year. The whole frustration.
Yeah.
Like you heard it. It got passed around as a chuckle moment, but you got to understand the frustration that he felt in that Detroit game when he's asking, "Don't y'all have anybody else to block?" And because they were triple teaming him. So man, when I heard that, I was like, "Man, Grady is probably as good as gone."
Yeah.
So he must have felt like they done decent enough to get him some help in the form of Lorenzo Carter, in the form of Ebiketie and Malone, in the form of Vincent Taylor.
Yep.
Bringing back Anthony Rush, the second year of Taquan Graham. So this defense is like you add the addition of Casey Hayward to pair with A.J. Terrell, that savvy veteran next to the rising star. This defense is starting to look up. But that brings us to the cloud, which is Deion Jones.
Right. Yeah.
Like, outside of the Falcons press itself, ain't no coaching staff mentioning Deion's name. Like, nowhere. And any chance they get to talk about him, he ain't there. So, we're looming on June 1st. So, I would imagine that he probably gets traded. I would think somewhere after June 1st. I mean, I didn't even think The Athletic put out an article about it earlier today.
Yeah, it was kind of shocking at what Jeff Schultz had to say about him, talking about he didn't have any leadership qualities to offer the team that, validated paying him the money that he should get this year. And that just blew my mind. I mean, you can tell that he just, you took the man's job.
Right.
I mean, you gave it to a guy that's now over there with the Jaguars. So that kind of, made you feel a certain kind of way. And now the team is not treating you like you're any part of them going into the season. I mean, how you expect, his feelings to me will be validated to how he will feel if he's not coming to camp. Or participating in anything. You haven't heard him participating in anything, actually. But, of course, it is voluntary, so he does not have to show up to anything. But somebody who wasn't showing up at least probably the last 2 years was Grady Jarrett, who's now participating in everything.
Well, I mean, because you got to feel like in that situation, like right now, Grady's kind of got to feel like the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
In a lot of sense. Like you don't have Matt Ryan here anymore.
Right.
Which I'm going to go on a Matt Ryan rant here in a minute and then hopefully just put all that behind me. But you don't have Matt Ryan here anymore. You don't have Julio Jones here anymore.
Nope.
So the closest thing you got right now to the face of the franchise really is either Kyle Pitts or Grady Jarrett.
Yeah. Well, Jake Matthews, I get you kind of.
You ain't putting no O-lineman as the face of the franchise. Look, come on now.
We got to put him in there, man. He's one of the longest lasting tenured Falcons.
I understand that, but the only stats they have are negative ones. It's blown blocks or not. Don't nobody care about O-linemen unless they ain't doing a job. You ain't trotting out Jake Matthews as y'all come watch the Falcons now because we got Jake Matthews. And I like Jake Matthews. You
don't think it's possible?
No, sir. I do not think it's possible. So, But
Come
no,
on, man, y'all go out there and get your Jake Matthews jersey.
yeah. Let me just go on, and I don't know how many people are buying up O-lineman jerseys that ain't family, you know. But yeah, it's an interesting, like you said, in the title you come up with, like they're hitting the reset button.
Oh yeah.
Like regardless
Yeah.
of what they want to say, how they want to spin it, rebuild, not rebuild, I don't even care. Like you have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
It is a reset button. This offensive scheme, the coach all but said, is going to look a lot different.
Yeah.
Is going to look a ton different, which that's something me and you going to like dig into as the off season goes on. But and it's not just like, and I guess here's a good spot for my Matt Ryan rant. It's not just the fact that it's a mobile quarterback. You know, the Arthur Smith said in that interview he did with Andy and Randy. Is it Andy and I don't know. I don't listen to the middays anymore, or I don't listen to any. But anyway, 92.9, he was on with them, and he made the statement that yes, they had to change a lot of what they were wanting, what they did or what they might do because of Matt Ryan, like because of what Matt Ryan was comfortable running. He's not a mobile quarterback, so was that the reason why they weren't successful last year? I don't know. I doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's more has to do with the fact that you had Russell Gage as your wide receiver one. Yeah. And everybody knew that you were throwing the ball to, Kyle Pitts. And you couldn't get a run game going because of your O-line. I don't think it's, necessarily can be laid at the feet of Matt Ryan. Like I made a statement on Twitter that a lot of people were, coming from my head on, which is fine. You're allowed to. You can come from my head in the chat if you want. I made a statement that, a lot of fans are going to finally see, like, in a way, how much Matt Ryan masked for this team, especially on offense, especially the last few years. Now, it may not look as bad if Drake London and all these guys really pop off.
Mm-hmm.
But the last few years, you've had relatively inconsistent Julio Jones. And you had Calvin Ridley, who was starting to come on, that we were kind of getting excited about. But you saw where that ended up. But, Matt Ryan, with his experience that he brought to the table, just like, in a way, Peyton Manning in the year that they won the Super Bowl, it wasn't necessarily Peyton Manning, but it was his experience of knowing what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
And that was the point I was making. And I say this as King 7-0, here we go. Yeah, I get it. I'm the Matt Ryan homer. I understand. I tell you this, like, he's on a different team, so I'm not rooting for him. I was just making a statement about the stability that we have had for over a decade. And there's plenty of teams out there that ain't had that. And right now, y'all can be as excited as you want to be for Desmond Ridder and for Marcus Mariota. But right now, they don't represent the stability that we've had. They are a complete and utter unknown. You have a former second overall pick who's now on his third team.
Mm-hmm.
Those type of people don't very, very rarely do they resurrect their careers. Very rarely. You have a third-round quarterback that you picked. Very rarely does a third-round quarterback come in and, like, hold down that job and lock it up. Doesn't happen very often. I know there's the Dak Prescotts. I know there are the Russell Wilsons. I understand. And maybe we'll get lucky. That's the best case scenario, man. If Desmond Ridder comes in and locks this thing up, dude, done.
Yeah.
I'll be stoked.
Yeah.
I will be absolutely stoked. But to act like the team got better because Ryan's not here anymore is silly to me. It's absolutely silly. Out of those 7 wins that we had last year that a lot of people want to try to shuck off, 4 of those wins came on fourth quarter last-minute drives. That was won by the offense. So, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. Like, I'm still going to have my jersey hanging up there next to the other one. because those are two of the greatest, Falcons that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And
I have some pictures down there, and I got Julio right here. I don't have Matt Ryan, or he's downstairs.
Yeah.
But I do,
so, like, it is what it is. I'll give respect. I'll give credit where credit's due, right?
Yeah.
So, if, they're going to have to show me that they're a better team. Because right now, my expectations are zero. Like, for the first time, and that was another point I was making, for the first time ever in my Falcon fandom, my expectations are absolutely goose egg. Like, I have none. Because when you had Matt Ryan at the helm, you at least felt like you had a chance.
Yeah.
And, like, until I see some consistency, whether it's the defense, whether it's the run game, whether it's Mariota or Ritter, like, operating this offense, until I see some consistency, nah, you ain't gonna get none out of, any, like, optimism out of me at this point. So, anyway, off that soapbox, we are 17 minutes or so in. I guess we can go ahead and jump into chat. If it looks a little different today, folks, I got a different setup. I'm running everything through one software, so that's why y'all got the preview 35 minutes early. I didn't know that was even going to throw that up there. So, if there's any kinks, y'all have to forgive me, and let me know if there's any kinks too. All right, let's go. YMOF Jamal says, rise up, Dirty Birds. What it do, pound for pound? Man, it do a lot, Yeah. Same thing with Blizz, P4P crew. What's up? What's going on? False Start Falcon says, how's it shaking, folks? Shaking pretty good over here.
Yeah, man.
Chris Jameson and King 77. What's going on, pound for pound family? What's going on, guys? Glad y'all are here. Ray 50 says, yo, what up, P4P? Got a question. Do y'all see AJ Terrell being voted in the top 100 this year? He should be. He definitely should be. Those votings are always kind of weird. And who makes it? It seems to be more of a popularity contest. But AJ Terrell should definitely be on that list. Let's see. ATL Camacho says, what's up, family? What's going on? CK22. What's up, JR and Toby? What's up, brother? Let's keep scrolling down. Wound Carter's in the building, says, rise up, pound for pound family. Glad to see you guys on a beautiful Tuesday night. Let's talk some Falcons football. That's it, man. That's what we're going to do. Let's see. We already answered that question. Tony Wright says, Toby D, JRC, what's happening? What's going on, Tony? Glad you're here. Chris Jameson wants to know if everybody saw Grim My House floating around on Twitter. Dude, you see all this back behind me, right? This is what I get, okay? I get my wall of hats. I get a couple jerseys. I think my wife would lose her mind if I painted the house red with Falcon stuff all over it.
Boy, what a house and cause it was.
Man, that was...
Boy.
Ooh. Iron Mike says, prayers for them babies down in Texas. I am not trying to get onto any kind of political rant about anything other than to say, yes, I very much pray for those people. I could not even, my little girl graduates preschool and my wife is a teacher. Stuff like that hits me real hard. So, yes, I definitely pray for those folks. Bradley Burnett says, what up, guys? Glad I got to listen to y'all while I rip out some shrubs in the front yard. I hope man, what you ripping out shrubs with? That sounds tedious and like hard work. I'm adverse to hard work. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really not. Bubblegum says, last year our wide receiver core was the Lollipop Guild. That they were. Yeah. Now we have the Monstars out there. So we're going to see how that goes.
Yeah, boy.
James Williams says, I'm starting to think Arthur Smith also wanted wide receivers that were willing blockers. Yes. Like when we had a decent run game with Kyle Shanahan, it was because Mohamed Sanu and Julio Jones would block their butts off.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, he wanted guys who could do that. King says, as soon as we get rid of Debo post June 1, Terry and Arthur should get Akeem Hicks on the phone. With him next to Grady is a good step forward. Reminds me a bit of Grady had Poe as a decent vet. Well, Grady's that vet now. So we'll see how all that goes. But Tony Wright agrees Grady, Jarrett, and Akeem Hicks would wreak havoc for opposing offensive linemen. And you also have the Chicago connection. So who knows?
Yeah.
But if they wanted to bring him in, they ain't got to wait on Debo. They got the money to do it. So, like, getting rid of Debo doesn't necessarily move a ton of money this year unless you trade him.
Right.
So,
exactly. Exactly.
But there's no pressure to do that because, like I said, they've already they got the money. Like they signed Dylan Malone today or D'Angelo Malone today. So I think they just about got their whole draft class wrapped up, don't they?
They may still have a couple of guys out there
Maybe the 6 rounders or something.
Yet. Yeah. But other than that, I don't know if they wrapped up everybody just yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you got 8 picks, but they taking care of quite a good bit of them.
I got you. Let's see. Charleston Nash says, I'm excited to see Troy Andersen. He is one that I'm interested to see how quick he comes along. Got all the raw talent in the world and all the athleticism in the world. Now it's just how quick can he put it together. And I read an article about, it was that Tory McElhaney put out about Troy Andersen and about the process of getting Troy Andersen. And it really sounds like they probably feel like he's their future Mike. Because they're complimenting his intelligence a lot. The fact that he's seen it from different angles as far as being a QB and a running back, and the fact that he is real good at anticipating what's coming.
Yeah.
So that instantly made me think about that Mike position. King 7 says Grady is definitely the face of the team now because he's one of the oldest vets, if not the oldest vet, with Matt and Julio gone. He was the next best guy on the team when it comes to consistency. Exactly. That's exactly right. And I think that they would do well to, treat him like the face of that team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they gave him a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah.
That would indicate they really wanted to keep him, like Arthur Smith was saying that the whole time at the owners meeting. So they did what they said they were going to do. They even though he wanted the scheme fit, they still wanted him to be here. I mean, look, like Chuck Smith say, pass rushers don't grow on trees. You need to keep them and figure out how to use them however you can. So
you can't never have enough of them.
Yeah.
If it was a simple deal where he just didn't have enough help, like as far as enough, people, if we can get, Carter and Ogundeji and Ebiketie and Malone and those guys, like if we can get them revved up and you throw in, Taquan Graham and John Kaminsky, like if we can get those guys like really revved up, and force somebody to have to look at somebody else besides Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
And, he can get back to his, tackle for loss and sack kind of ways. Which was all what we definitely want to see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Our good buddy Tack McKinley. He always makes me chuckle because.
Yeah.
What's that?
It always cheers me out every time you see
I know.
it.
He says, "I'm ready for the unknown," and I think that's what a lot of fans are in the boat of, and I understand that. I really do. Like, it's kind of like, I had an analogy, I just lost it. But anyway, not knowing what you're going to get, the excitement of seeing something fresh and something new, and I get that, and that's what this year does feel like. Like I said, I don't have any expectations for this team as far as wins and losses go. What I want to see is more consistency, and I want to see them in games.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see them just in games that they should be in. No, I wanted them. A lot of people reference Detroit from last year. Just fighting tooth and nail all the way through. and actually getting some wins that you probably shouldn't have gotten.
Right.
Like they beat Green Bay at the end of the season. So that's kind of what I'm wanting this year. Is I'm wanting to see a team that is, well prepared. I don't want to see a team that is consistently out-coached. So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for this year. King says he doesn't think Ebiketie has been inked yet. I thought he had been, but maybe I can't keep up with who signed who had. They got until what, middle of June to get him signed?
Yeah, I mean, they sometimes, man, I mean, it's old tradition, but some teams go into camp before they even finish up their, finish up their rookie signings or whatever. But I mean, I doubt they'll take that long with him. But we'll see how that goes. I didn't think they had sealed up a whole class just yet, but they got some of the key components out of the way. Especially with Drake London, he's down. You got a few other guys that you taking care of. So Ebiketie, they'll take care of him, I'm sure, before the OTAs.
Oh yeah, before mandatory training camp starts. That I would think they'd have him all locked up. King 7 says, who gets the most sacks on the team this year? So I'm gonna go with Carter. I think Lorenzo Carter. I think he, was starting to get it figured out in New York, and I think he brings that level of consistency, and I think he ends up with the most sacks.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'll go with that. I mean, he's been averaging about 4 to 5 sacks since he's been drafted. So I can see him being a 7 to 10 sack guy. If they can get that out of him, I think they believe that they can. They have coaching staff that can get that out. If they can get that out, they got something.
Yeah.
And it's going to definitely help everybody else when you have another guy. See, right now, all you still have really is Grady Jarrett when you're looking at it on paper.
Right.
Nobody else really, despite what potential they bring in, offenses is not sitting there scared at night other than Grady Jarrett on the front line. So those guys are going to have to prove that there's something to be reckoned with.
Exactly. They're going to have to prove that. And I actually think this year what you're going to see is a lot more. I think it's going to be what Dean Pease talked about at the beginning, which was sacks from everywhere.
Yeah.
With Isaiah Oliver back in the fold, I could see him with 3 or 4 sacks at the end of the season. I could see Rashawn Evans with a sack or 2. If Troy Andersen or Michael Walker really get cranked up, I could see those guys having 4 or 5 sacks each. So I could see the sack totals being up, but it being spread out over a larger group of people. I don't know if we're necessarily going to get, a double-digit sack guy, but I think it's going to be like, sacks by committee or pressures by committee is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Myself there. Let's see. All right. Nick says, now they can do more play action, bootleg, wildcats, and QB draws. That's exactly. And that's something that me and Toby have been looking at as far as the scheme goes. And you can't just look at Tennessee. That's something that me and Toby have been talking about since last season.
Yeah.
Is that you can't just be looking at Tennessee. You got to be looking at KC, and you got to be looking at Chicago as well, because Ragone, Petrie, and London are all from Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, they all got ties to Nagy, which comes from KC, which comes from Andy Reid.
A lot of what Nagy did came from KC.
Exactly. So I don't just look at like we tend to get fixated on the Tennessee bit because of Arthur Smith and because he's the one that calls the plays. But as they said last year, London and Ragone are the ones that set the plays up.
Yep.
They're the ones that put that big play sheet together. And they're the ones that are doing the the film studies of the teams and all this other jazz, all while Arthur is taking care of his, other duties, paying attention to the, rest of the team and that kind of stuff. He's still the head coach. So if I'm not mistaken, for Arthur, like, he focuses on the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really like those plays are his, from if I remember that article right from last year. But pretty much everything else is coming from Ragone in London.
Yeah.
So now you add into the fact that you got, Mariota and Ritter. Yeah, you're going to see a lot more, QB runs, outside runs. You're going to see a lot more RPO game. You're going to see a lot more screen game. It's going to look a lot different, which is exciting.
Felipe Franks is finally going to get to actually do what he does, because he wasn't able to do it last year because they changed up so much. See, I didn't even realize they did that. But, Arthur Smith, it really sounds like Arthur Smith, they're not blaming Matt Ryan for whatever happened, but it sounds like it's a knock on Tom Dimitroff. You got somebody like Matt Ryan, and you drafted the wrong personnel, and you brought in the wrong personnel.
Well,
everything you doing don't fit.
And that was the worry with Shanahan, right? When you brought Shanahan in initially, I remember that coming up. It was like, oh, great, we're gonna have the outside zone or wide zone running scheme, and you need these lighter, offensive linemen to do it, and you need a guy who can roll a little bit more. That's fine until you got a 36-year-old quarterback who can't really roll like that, and you didn't adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't adjust. You didn't bring in, guys who can protect the middle.
Right.
Matt Ryan had good pocket presence, in general, but when he's got people in his face every 2 seconds. But anyway, again, I'm not spending time talking about somebody who's playing for the Colts now. Let's see. King thinks Ebiketie is going to make a splash. I'd love to see it. Like, there were some people who were thinking that he could have went as high as the first round.
Yeah.
And had there been a run on edge rushers versus a run on wide receivers, he would have went in the first round.
Mm-hmm. I heard that Seattle was lurking.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it was between Mafe and Ebiketie that they were looking at heavily.
Yep.
And they were waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting in the wings.
Exactly. So the Falcons probably had a pretty good sense on that as well, which is why they jumped up. Let's see. Brian Smith says, how many games do we win with the strength of schedule? I'm looking at probably right now, I'm going to say 4 or 5 is kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah. I mean, obviously they could, shock everybody, but I'm going to say 4 or 5, and I'm going to say it's going to be an interesting conversation next offseason about, because I think we are going to be in striking range of, Stroud or a Young or whoever else emerges.
Yeah. And it's possible, man. All I can say is they're really banking on these schemes helping the offense turn things around. They are heavily banking. I mean, heavily.
Well,
gambling on these new schemes helping this offensive line look a lot better than what they did last year. So we'll see.
Well, I saw a graph today, and I meant to screen cap it, but I didn't. But I saw a graph today talking about guys who are like played guard at college ball. They coming in and doing good year one as a guard, like a Chris Lindstrom. But guys who transition from a tackle to a guard, like, they take a real big jump in year 2. So I wonder if that's what they're banking on with Mayfield, because they haven't really brought in any real competition as of yet for Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because Afedi and Wilkerson are mainly right side players.
Right. But you do have Drew Dahlman, who played at the left guard position last year. He played both the center and left guard.
Right. Now that could be an interesting one there. To see if he can actually provide some competition.
Yeah. And you got Justin Shaper. I wouldn't sleep on him just yet. He might surprise. And I mean, we'll just have to see how it goes. Right now, looking at position battles, this ain't OTAs, so we would have to wait till we get to camp before we can start worrying about, because position battles right now, they don't exist until you get past OTAs.
Yeah, you gotta get into
at this point.
Yeah, you gotta get into actual training camp.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mike O says, no expectations. I'm just excited to see the new look Falcons. Our future is looking bright. I can see us making the playoffs in the next 2 years. Yeah, I just wonder how patient Arthur's going to be, like Arthur's blank.
Yeah, right. That's the question.
You know, how long of a leash does Arthur Smith have? Like, I think you have to see improvement this year. Yeah. Whether it be on the defense, whether it be on the run game, I think you have to see improvement. You know, because if not, that seed, I think, is going to start getting warm.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's how you end up in the, you know, like Browns-esque era, which I don't want to start down that road.
Right.
I mean, I'd much rather give Arthur Smith 5 years before I started down the road of a new coach every 2-3 years.
Yeah, and he just may get that opportunity. Now, I didn't give him past 2023 because I felt like 2023 is where they can really go for winning. I'm not really expecting them to win in 2022, but what I am expecting them to do is to show me what these new look schemes is going to look like and how that's going to hit the offensive line, because you did not make a single high dollar investment on your offensive line. You went with some cheaper dollar guys to come in. I don't mean to make it sound that way, like these guys just, you know, cheap floozies or whatever, but you brought these guys in and you didn't put any major capital into it because you're banking on these schemes and having that mobility in QB helping this offensive line look a lot better, especially the RPOs. It's obvious it's going to be an uptick in that.
Of course,
There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
No matter if it's Mariota or Ritter.
Be shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something both of them rely heavily on.
Right.
You know, in their games. So, yeah, I would definitely expect a full uptick in both, you know, in RPOs with both of those guys. Now, the interesting thing is, like, you know, we could get in, like, there's still time. I would feel more comfortable if they brought in, like, J.C. Treader, you know, at center. Like, if you're going to stick with Mayfield, I would much prefer you put Mayfield in between two stalwart veterans. Because Hennessy didn't show me much last year. You know, like, he can get up to the second level and move fine. But as far as, like, you know, actually being able to anchor down and block somebody, he doesn't give me much hope there.
Yeah. And see, I just don't see them moving too much in that area yet until they see, once they get into camp and see what these schemes are going to do. Because right now, you don't have pass on anything. So all you can do is simulate it and execute it with great technique the best you can to see what it is this team can do. But I don't know if they're going to go out to any more offensive linemen until they see if what they're envisioning with these new schemes they're going to implement is actually going to help. Because if it does, they look like a genius. But if it doesn't, well, okay, like you said, that seat's going to warm up.
Right, but let's look at it like this. You know, Arthur Smith was able to cobble together a more effective offensive line up in Tennessee and make it work. And part of the reason why he was able to make it work is because of the athleticism and things that Tannehill could do.
Right.
So,
agreed.
You know, if that's what they're banking on, you know, he made Ty Sombrello, who we call Turnstile down here,
right,
look, you know, passable.
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure that's about what it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. We got some Team Mariota folks in the chat. I know our good buddy Chris Jameson. He says Mariota will be comeback player of the year. That would be awesome as well.
I hope he does.
I'm gonna put it to you like this, guys, like flat out. If Mariota or Ritter can solidify this QB position for the next 10 years, dude, like you won't hear me complain about it. By no means. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, I don't care. Yeah. That'd be one less thing I got to worry about. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Bubba Gump says, I'm hoping Dahlman wins the starting center in camp in preseason. Yeah, I mean, I hope it's a true battle, or if he doesn't win, I hope it's because Hennessy comes in and really locks it down. But
and he good. And once again, I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, but if the new scheme they implement helps him look like he's a world beater,
then by all means,
then hey, let's go.
Right.
That's all I can say. Let's go. Now, this offense is definitely going to look different. Now, I think on the defense side of the ball, it was just a matter of upgrading some pieces. Which I think the defense is fine.
Which I feel like they did. I really feel like they did with signing a Casey Hayward, getting Isaiah Oliver back.
Yeah.
And doing getting Rashad Evans and Troy Andersen, in that linebacker core, along with Michael Walker. Like, I really do feel like the defense has upgraded in from what we had last year. I feel a lot more confident about it than I thought I would. King 7 is yelling at us apparently. That's what all caps. He's got it in all caps, which is internet for yelling, as Make You Fumble was asking why he was yelling. But he says, fellas, do you think with us having a bad O-line shows how our defensive line will be if they can or cannot get to the QB in training? Because if they can't, oh boy, we're in for a long one. Yeah, if they ain't getting some pressure in training camp or whatever, then I'm going to be real worried. Because, yeah, they should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, June 3rd, that's Friday, June 3rd, the Falcons are having at least they're having an open practice at Mercedes-Benz. And I will be there because I'm crazy and didn't realize it was on a Friday when I bought the tickets. They ain't never done it on a Friday before.
Yeah.
It's always been on a Saturday. So I scooped up tickets in my excitement of being able to see the team early. And then I realized it was on a Friday at 1:30. So if you find yourself at Mercedes-Benz watching an open practice, look for the guy sitting by himself in 4 seats. Because I bought 4 tickets.
Golly, man. I wish I could go, man. It's just on a work day.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'll have to see how much more time I got. Oh, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make it, man. If it went on a Friday that early, I probably would swing that, man. But, man, I don't know, man.
I got 1 vacation day left.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up having to use it. Maybe. Unless my boss is watching, which, hey, boss, how about you just let me go at lunch? Let's do a half day kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah, that caught me off guard when they posted that for a Friday. It didn't even faze me. I was like, oh, it's definitely a Saturday because that's when they do this stuff.
Yeah, and they normally do.
No, that was wrong. They did it on a Friday, so we'll see. And then I secured my tickets to the preseason game. So the only one that they're having here against the Jags, which will be the 3rd preseason. So we should have a pretty good idea what's going on by then.
Yeah, that's a dress rehearsal.
Right. So,
but you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Huh. I'm glad you brought that up because we talk about this reset, right? They getting a chance to reset everything, right? What they didn't do last year, this is something the Eagles did. Nick Sirianni, when he took over the job, they had 2 scrimmage games, I think, against the Jets and New England before they played them, and they had all 3. Now they went kind of like we did as far as preseason, didn't play a lot of their veterans because Jalen Hurts only played probably like 2-3 snaps throughout the whole 3 games in the preseason because they felt like at least those two scrimmage games, they got enough of Jalen Hurts they needed to see.
Right.
And I'm glad that Arthur Smith has taken it upon himself this year, him and his crew, to have them 2 scrimmage games because you're going to need them, and the 3 preseasons because it's going to take all of that to figure out who over 75% of your roster is going to be starting in them starting spots that you got. It's going to be open.
It's going to take all that and then some.
Yeah.
I would imagine some potential roster turning, even as even as the first few games of the season kicks on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to see that with and I think you're going to see teams do the in practice scrimmages more with the loss of one preseason game.
Yeah.
Because they used to use that 4th one as all right, let me figure out what the bottom end of my roster is going to look like. But you don't have that anymore. So now you're going to need more reps in that aspect, which I think is what you're going to get with the scrimmage games.
Right.
So,
well, see, the good thing about that is Dean Peasman, remember, he said they ran everything against the Dolphins. They didn't care they had to play them during the regular season or not. And see, that's another thing with them scrimmage games. You're not worried about showing anything on tape because you just playing them and you can just run through everything. And I think that's the reason why they want to do these 2 games, scrimmages, against these teams, them days they'll be doing it up to the game because they'll be able to show whatever they want to show. And I don't think we play either one of those teams, the Jets or the Jaguars, that we're scrimmaging with either. Right. So now that allows them to just run everything they want to run, and they ain't got to worry about showing anything on preseason tape if they don't want to.
And also, you remember last year that the Dolphins preseason game was basically the best preseason game we had. Yeah. Not that any of that means anything, but it's, that also may have a lot to do with that, deciding to do that.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking, Mano says thoughts on Tyler Algier. I made a comment to you today when we were talking about scheme stuff and things like that. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a real chance that Tyler Algier could come out as running back 1 or RB1. I still think it's going to be a stable regardless. And I say that, and you say, oh, what about Patterson? I classify Patterson as an offensive weapon.
Special package.
Right. That's he's your matchup nightmare. They're going to use him however they see fit, whether it's running or out wide. So I'm considering Algier the possibility of him being RB1 because as we figured out today, looking at PFF, we are a zone blocking team, period, point blank. And Algier is a zone running back. Like that's what he didn't take off at BYU until they implemented that zone blocking scheme. And then he rushed for over 1,000 yards 2 seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So if he brings that same tenacity, I could see him being RB1. I mean, he doesn't have extremely stiff competition. Like you have my guy Quadre Olison, who has not been able to really show any real stability. And then you have Damian Williams, who I know a lot of people were psyched about him because of his Super Bowl year or whatever. But that was the only year he had.
Yeah.
And almost half of his yardage came off of 2 runs. A 94-yard run and an 89-yard run. Like, he only had 480-something yards total. So you take those 2 runs away, and you're looking at a 2.9-yard average. That shouldn't be getting anybody excited. Like, he does nice coming out of the backfield catching the ball. So, I mean, I hope he can regain that form that he had in 2018. But right now, I'm not holding out much hope for Williams.
Yeah. I mean, if they do what I think they're going to do, as far as schemes go, Williams and Algier should get a lot of touches.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know about Andersen, but Algier definitely fits in a lot of the new scheme stuff that I believe. Now I don't know,
Right.
but I believe from basically what I've been reading and stuff like that and studying that if that's what they're bringing to the table, Algier looks to have some major success his first year out the gate.
I think so.
And Williams finding his place as well because Williams knows the offense that they would possibly be running.
Right.
We don't know yet.
Right.
Because,
I mean, he was definitely brought in for familiarity purposes.
yeah.
You know, from his time in Chicago with Petrie, with London and Ragone. So, we'll see how that goes. But, like I said, he's a 30-year-old back who has had one decent season.
Yeah.
Like I'm not necessarily like stoked about what his production brings. Like I'm actually kind of more excited to see what Olesen and Caleb Huntley look like in year 2 of this offense. Let's get back into chat. Mark Turner says so many unknowns on this offense it's hard to predict. Hoping for a surprise, anything possible, blind faith. That's kind of where we're all at.
We're right back at square one where we were last year. Especially on the offensive side of the ball.
I mean, you almost like got to look at it like last year didn't even happen.
Right, exactly.
Like you almost can't take anything from last year.
You can't.
Because you almost have a completely different roster.
Yeah, it is.
So,
everything you just said, we're right back at square one. Yep. We don't know any more about this team than we knew last year.
Exactly. Tony Wright says, Toby Jr., there's a log jam at inside linebacker with Rashad Evans, Deion Jones, Michael Walker, Troy Andersen, and now Nick Kwiatkowski. Who would you say is the odd man out? Would be Deion Jones.
Deion Jones.
Straight up and down.
Yeah.
I think initially, I think Troy Andersen is going to be this year's Richie Grant in the sense of I think he's going to be brought along slowly.
It's possible.
So my thoughts right now are Rashawn Evans and Michael Walker start as your.
But see, once again, I think that's why they're looking forward to these 2 scrimmage games because you got more time to get more reps with other teams besides yours, and you can bounce a lot of stuff off of other teams getting different looks.
Right.
So yeah.
I think that's a. If I had to take a guess today on the 24th of May before we've really gotten into anything, I would say Rashawn Evans and Michael Walker are your starting linebackers. But also remember, like Rashawn Evans was only given like a little over $1 million.
Right.
So he's not guaranteed anything either.
Nope.
So if Troy Andersen comes in and just blows doors, and Nick Kwiatkowski comes in and just impresses the crap out of everybody, like you could be looking at those 2 guys.
Yeah, you could. Everything is up in the air at this point. Yep. Yeah, everything is up in the air, so you don't know. It's just all of who's going to catch it faster. But I do like the 2 scrimmage games. I think those are going to turn out to be very huge, especially this New Orleans Saints game, player. You cannot afford to fall on your face. You got a chance to not only redeem yourself from last year's debacle with the first opening game of the season when we got shellacked by the Eagles in our own house. You cannot afford to do that.
No.
This year.
Yeah.
Can't do
it. You can't come out flat like that. Mm-mm. You can't come out like that 2 years in a row, and you can't come out like that against the New Orleans Saints.
Mm-mm.
Like, you absolutely cannot. You have to, like, if you don't win, you have to, like, it's got to come down to the last play.
Yeah, it's got to.
Like, it's got to be a hard-fought, fight all the way through.
And it makes no sense for you to have issues when you're not even going to be facing Sean Payton.
Right.
issue.
Right. You're facing a more defensive-minded head coach.
Who didn't have a great 4 years when he was with the, at that time, Oakland Raiders.
Right. And, you're facing Jameis Winston coming off of a major injury.
Yep.
So, and you're facing a Saints team that has been a little bit gutted. So it's going to be interesting to see like that fight. Bubba Gump says, you think Oz Alameda Zacchaeus is going to beat out Edwards and Tate? No way that's happening.
No.
Well, I think he's going to be asked to do something different. And that's the thing is, like, I think his direct competition is Damiere Byrd.
Yeah. And that,
I think that's
how I
his.
see it. I mean, they brought Edwards over here for a reason, and it's not to be third or fourth string wide receiver.
Because you got to think, they gave up future draft capital for that pick.
Right.
So that's not a pick that's not a player that they're taking lightly.
Right.
Like he's almost guaranteed a spot.
Yep.
As much as as much as Tyler Algier is.
Yeah.
Like very rarely do you see a team move off of a draft pick in the year they drafted him.
Right.
So that, to me, that's the same. And plus, they, it's well-known fact that the third year is when wide receivers really take off.
Yep, that's when if they don't, then it might not be too good for them after that.
Right. So you might, we might be talking about Edwards as the wide receiver one. And, Drake London, coming along, kind of, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tony Wright says, Toby and JR, I am old school and new. I've seen a lot of greats. Now I am comparing this young man to him, but the way Tyler Algier finishes runs looks a lot. Go look at the film of Walter Payton. Holy Pete.
Oh wow, that is a huge high amount of praise, guys.
Well, he says he's not comparing him. He's just talking about the way.
I know.
So,
well, I'll take it.
I'll say this: Tyler Algier, after doing a little bit more studying on him, ended up like being one of my, I was fond of him as far as the backs in this class. His time spent at a linebacker. You could tell he's looking to hit people, when he finishes his runs. So I'll be interested to see how he is, how he transpires and how he goes forth this season for sure. Let's see. TB3 Entertainment says Ritter beating the Saints his first game of his career would be huge. LOL. Oh yeah, if Ritter wins the starting job and then beats the Saints, holy Pete, that would be crazy. Yeah. Then he says that would cause Marcus to get traded. No, I think they have, I think one of the things of bringing Marcus in was the idea of being, if nothing else, they saw how he handled not being the starter.
Right.
And so now you have a backup that, if it ends up being Mariota as the backup, you have a backup that you know you can count on.
And vice versa.
Right. So I think it's a win-win either way that goes.
And I think whoever sits still will have a special package for him.
Oh yeah.
I think even if Ritter does not get to start, that the Falcons will have a special package to utilize him on certain plays to come in there. So I don't think it'll be all he just gonna be holding the clipboard.
Yep.
That's just my thought.
No, I agree with that because, he has a little bit fresher legs than Mariota in that aspect. So, I would imagine that they do try to get his feet wet, because at some point you're gonna have to see what you have in him.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing they're hoping he's going to show out or show enough in the preseason. But I would imagine even if Mariota starts, I'd imagine by midseason, unless Mariota is just balling, there's a good possibility, just looking at his track record, that he's going to end up being hurt, and that may open the window for Ritter, to come in and stake his claim.
Yeah.
Well, my guy, man, we have bumped up over an hour, just a little bit over an hour, and I think we're running out of stuff to talk about. Unless you got something else you want to hit.
I think we about covered everything for the night, man. The OTAs, we just gotta wait and see what comes out of there. And right now, nothing's really come out.
Yeah, no, that's the sad part, man. I was really hoping for like a good montage video or something that'll make you make you get your football juices flowing.
Yeah, they kept it quiet today.
They did. I'm hoping we'll get some more tomorrow. Something else to talk about per se. All right. Well, if nobody's got any other questions, well, see. Bubblegum says, besides, how do you give up on a QB after the first year? Keep in mind now, it's a third round QB. Like that doesn't hold the same weight as a first round QB. Not at all. So that's how you do it. They were smart in that aspect. But anyway, keep your eyes on the channel, as we're always trying to put out fresh content, deep dives, things like that. We'll be back in 2 weeks to do another live show. As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Toby
D 1991.
That's it, man. And if you want the Patreon stuff, we got that. If you want merchandise, we got that. Like Toby said earlier, like, subscribe, share. We're on that chase for 5,000, which we're getting there, thanks to y'all. So if you got a friends, family, tell them about it. So we can hit that milestone. But anyway,